Okay, folks, I have 7 o'clock, so I'm gonna go ahead and call to order this October 14, 2025 regular meeting of the Town Council of the Town of White Lake. And I would ask first of all that you bow your heads for the invocation. Dear Lord, we wish to thank you for giving us the opportunity to be able to gather here this evening to discuss the business of our town. Lord, we ask that you guide us and direct us as we attempt to do your will and do those things that are in the best interest of the citizens of this town. These things we ask in Christ's name. Amen. Okay, our next item is a Pledge of Allegiance. All of you are welcome to join in. I'd ask Commissioner Womble to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Folks, first item we have is the approval of the consent agenda items. Those are outlined in your agenda packet that you have, unless there are any questions in regard to any of those. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second. Motion second, any discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Our next item on the agenda is our stormwater ordinance presentation. And you probably noted from taking a look at this in the agenda, we have a couple of folks with Withers Ravenel, one of them coming in online with us, and one here, which we'll introduce in just a moment. And folks, as outlined in here, we know this is a lot to digest. There is not any the only action on this tonight is we're going to set a date of November 18th, which will be our next meeting for the stormwater ordinance hearing on that. So any questions that you have on this, we'll try to get answered in the meantime. But we understand it's a lot to go through. It's a comprehensive ordinance, and we look forward to getting everybody's input on it before we place it on for adoption. So that being said, John, if you want to go forward with that.
Sure. As Mayor Womble outlined, we have two engineers with us tonight, Dory and Alicia. Alicia is joining us on Zoom. She has been, in fact, both of them, we've worked throughout the process, but they've been good to work with. And I think they've heard a lot of input from our community. They've certainly heard input from our planning board. They've gone above and beyond, in my professional opinion, of trying to create an ordinance that fits our town. And not only fits our town, but is realistic expectations of our public, to gather input as well as to try and encourage members of the public, even if they may have a piece of property that's existing, to buy in, quote unquote, to the program. The ultimate goal of the program is to improve lake quality and lake clarity. We want to reduce nutrients, and we want to reduce runoff that's getting to our lake and going into our lake for a lot of different reasons in the lake management realm. But we've taken a look at several different ordinances in several different towns, particularly towns that are under the Coastal Management Act and towns that are under stormwater guidelines from DEQ, to try and pick and choose the best practices to, again, improve lake management scenarios here in the town of White Lake. I want you to keep in mind during the presentation, this is a starting point. It certainly is written with the idea in mind that we may revisit it in the future based off of what's working and what may not be working. So with that, with the stage having been set, so to speak, I'll turn it over to Dory for the presentation.
Perfect. Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you for listening to us today, and thank you for trusting us first and taking this endeavor. I know that something that is important for the town. Like Sean mentioned, the lake is important to the town. At the same time, the residents of the town and what is practical and achievable. And that's what we kept in mind in our analysis throughout, and that's what we'll present in here. Next slide, please. I'll start with a brief agenda in here as to what I'm going to go through in the presentation. We'll go through the process and the mindset of how we went through the entire project to reach the ordinance, the framework and the vision for the town, and what we're trying to achieve from the ordinance. We will look at the overall regulatory and zoning context for the town and for the state. We looked at the comparable communities, if you will, to see what is done elsewhere, such that it's not an outlier what we are proposing in here. And then we'll go through an overview of the entire ordinance. So what we're proposing is in terms of stormwater control measures, and that's how we are going to control the water that comes off properties into the lake, and the vegetative buffers, that's the protection zone for the lake, natural protection, future operation and maintenance of the SCM. So once they are implemented, the stormwater control measure, it needs some maintenance to keep functioning as it needs to be. And then Sean just mentioned it's a starting point. There's future opportunities to improve and lessons learned from all this. We'll touch base on those. So first, in terms of the process, we went through and looked at what has been done already, and in other communities, that's the comparative stormwater ordinance review. And in March, we had convened town and we went through what we found in there. And then we shared the key points of the stormwater ordinance with the planning board and got into an agreement on those in May. We drafted the ordinance by July, again met with the planning board in August of this year. And now we are presenting here throughout the process, and we were engaged with the town. We had monthly meetings with Sean and went through what we are doing, how we are progressing, and made sure that we are always on the right track. Next slide, please. So in here, in terms of the process, first, the planning framework for it, we looked at the comprehensive plans for White Lake, and that's the top part in here. And we saw that we wanted an ordinance that matches the planning already, what's already asked for by the citizens and has gone through public hearings and accepted. And one of the action steps is to adopt and inform stormwater controls, and that's what we're going to be talking about it. Some other action steps, reducing impervious surfaces, and these are highlighted in red in here, just because the more we have impervious surfaces, the more water runs off from the property, reaches the lakes, and takes with it nutrients and sediments, and it impacts the water quality of the lake. And the increasing the setbacks, that's the vegetative buffer also in there. Same thing on the future land use plan. We reviewed this one. Similar items. We're talking about regulating the development activities, and that ties with the impervious surfaces, natural vegetation in the buffer areas, and adhering to the state stormwater development regulations. And that's what we reviewed, the context of state regulations, what's required at a larger scale, and here and what's being done. Next slide, please. The vision and purpose that we kept in mind throughout the project and when we were analyzing this is that we want to reduce the nutrients and sediments to the lake. That's improving the water quality of the lake and the clarity of the water. But at the same time, also we wanted some flexible options and something practical for the residents that can be done. We kept in mind that this could be a phased approach with future opportunities for improvements and the lessons learned. And we wanted all this to be compatible with the planning and with the zoning codes that exist in town. So that's what we put together all together. And here I'll go through some of the regulations that, and I want to say these are the state regulations. They are not applicable. The town does not have to follow and meet these ones, but that's what's being applied throughout the state and as well as the comparable communities. We have some outstanding waters. They are in green, highlighted the South River here in green around town. And there's some regulations for water supply watersheds, and that's these are the tan areas in there. and those require some specific requirements for water quality. On top of those, there's a federal program that flows down to the state that's called the NPDES MS4, and that's for larger municipalities. They have to meet certain requirements to improve water quality. And then the CAMA, that's the coastal area management, and for all the areas that are on the east portion of the state, they follow these regulations. Please. The jurisdictions and where things apply, that's the town, the lake is the central town, and the colored area is jurisdictional limits, but also we're looking at the ETJ, the extraterritorial jurisdiction boundary, and that encompasses more area than we have in the town. And now we will see in the next slide, it's mainly agriculture, but we looked at both of them and we want to apply to all of them such that future development can be in conformance with the ordinance. That's the zoning I talked about. The ETJ is mainly residential agricultural outside the town, and then we have the businesses and residential mainly within the town, and we have that in mind during the development of the ordinance. Now, one term that is central to the ordinance, it's called built upon areas, and that's the state regulations is based on it. Any stormwater calculations in general are based on it, and what this means is the area of impervious surface. So whenever it rains, the rain does not have a chance to percolate through the surface to underground, so it runs off, and that's where you have more water going through the waterways and reaching the lake, and it carries with it all the nutrients and sediments to the lake. So that's the central point of how we look at the ordinance and how we implement accreditation. Couple exemptions in here that, and these are also in the state. Pools are considered exempt, so if somebody has a pool that does not count part of the exemption area. And the decks, that's always a question that comes from everyone. If they are adding a deck, will they need to comply with everything? Slated decks are not considered impervious because water can go between them and it percolates, so there's no requirement to meet anything if you're adding a deck on the property. So what triggers, now we talked about the exemptions, what triggers the ordinance? It's the same trigger pretty much as the zoning. If you need a zoning permit, then you are going to have some considerations for stormwater management. And those can be either implementing some control measures or some fee associated with it, and we'll talk about it in a little bit. So the stormwater and ordinance that we're proposing, it applies for two categories: the low density and high density. On the low density, these are the single families, two family. We want to achieve some water quality component with it. So, and in general, the water quality component in the state, if we can treat the first inch of rainfall that comes on the ground, then it's presumed that we can reach a good water quality. That's what we're doing in here, but at the same time, we wanted it to be the least burdening on individuals because it's single family. So we can propose what is called low impact development, and these are putting some vegetated swales. They don't require an engineering stamp or design. So the landscaper can do the work and help the community with it. Now for the high density of common plans and larger developments, in that case, what we're going to do is have the 1 inch of water quality treatment as well as attenuation. And attenuation means whenever it rains for the 1 year storm event, the water that leaves the site is the same as the water that left the site before any development. So this way you don't have an impact from the development. And that the way we achieve this also is either a swale, pond, wetland. So we'll put some measures, stormwater control measure for water to go in. It sits for a while and then it leaves at the same pace. With that one, it follows, there's an NCDQ manual for it. There's standard designs, engineering designs. It will require the e-signature, so it's a full design of a stormwater control measure. to implement it. That one will also have an operation and manual. That means for the future, they need to inspect it, make sure it's working and it's functioning as it's designed. These are examples of low impact development. I talked about them a little bit in here, but they could be a small garden next to the downspouts. Disconnecting these downspouts instead of going directly into the driveway will have a great effect because the water will allow the water to percolate. Or some small yards that we have some manuals of smart yards, and we can have with all these items. Additional ones, it could be a rain barrel, just collecting some of the rainfall that comes into the property. There can be some pervious pavement, and there's the top part in there where water would come to the pavement. You can park cars if you drive on it, but at the same time, it does not block water from going into the underground. These are for the larger developments, so that's high density, will require a larger stormwater control measure. And by that, we're talking about constructing a stormwater wetland. And it doesn't have to be massive. I mean, it is sized for that 1 inch and 1 year. And these are typical design criteria that I would adopt throughout the state. But that's an example of two of them, and they can have an aesthetic value at the same time. It could be a pond, but also it can be something that has an aesthetic value. Now, in here, I talk about the vegetative buffers, and that's protecting the vegetation around the lake because it is the last line of defense before we can go over. And what is being proposed in this ordinance is to have a setback of 30 feet instead of 20 feet. So protecting the 30 feet from the high water, from the water line of the lake. That's for the setback that is being proposed, and the flow through it will be dispersed such that the vegetation will stay in place. It can act as a buffer, just as it says it, and protects the water quality. Couple exceptions of it, some linear projects all the way, or publicly funded projects where there's no way to avoid the impacts. What is called water dependent structures, decks and things of that nature, where the structure depends on the water, then there will be some impact. The beach area and some small ponds and utility appurtenances, we can accommodate for them in the ordinance. Next slide. Now, by requiring this setback, also considering the impact to the property owners, instead of losing 10 feet of setback at the lake side, what we are also proposing is to reduce the setback on the roadway side, such that property owner would not be losing any of the value that they have, or the area that they have where they can develop inside the property, but at the same time, the lake is being protected. And that will be part of the zoning requirement. The operations and maintenance, that's for the future. So what will be required from it whenever the stormwater control measure is developed and designed, it will also include an operations and maintenance manual. And the owner of the stormwater control measure, SCM, will be required to do an inspection, annual inspection, and reporting on it. And if anything is not working, they will correct it. And these are the requirements to have PE or registered landscape architect as the designer. The annual maintenance, it will be recorded as part of the development process, and there's a short amount for the stormwater control measure, just as protection. Another regulation that is important for town is the development, the regulations. And if a property is being raised, we want to make sure that it does not impact adjacent properties. And that is part of the requirements that we're adding. Whenever a developer raises the property by more than a foot, then they need to demonstrate how they are going to manage the water from the property such that they don't have an adverse impact on the adjacent parcels. The erosion and sedimentation control. So this program is during construction. That's not post construction. Before we were talking about post construction, this program is managed by the state. The town does not have anything on it, but it applies whenever more than 1 acre of land is disturbed. The state requires a permit, it's called a sediment and erosion control permit. It has measures such as the silt fence we're showing in here, where the purpose of it is to control the sediment that might be beside during construction. And that's included by reference for everyone that is disturbing more than 1 acre are required to obtain the state permit for it. And we are requiring stormwater control measures, erosion control measures to be installed whenever there's any disturbance to the vegetation around the lake, because that's the protected buffer area. Talked about future improvements and learning lessons maybe from the existing ones, and these are some of the potential ones. The erosion control program can be delegated from the state of the town, so that could be an option of them, or implementing some more erosion control measures in the ordinance. The vegetation on the lake, and the lakes now, we're asking for protection of the vegetation, but native vegetation could be another enhancement to be introduced around the lake. We're not putting limits on the impervious area per parcel, but that could be something considered in the future if needed, if things need to improve. A design manual for LID projects, the low impact development, that's for the single family or even existing property owners. Sometimes they might want to do something good for them. They might ask, how can I improve a property just so that I contribute to an improved water quality of the lake, and that manual could come in handy. And accounting for groundwater sheds. So now the ordinance is all about surface water. So future improvements could be accounting for that groundwater shed. And that is the content and the more of the ordinance. If you have any questions.
Probably like the people in the first day of school, we don't know enough to ask questions. Right at this point, I'll have to put myself in that category. We have put in the agenda, the stormwater ordinance that y'all have come up with. And certainly if any of you have any questions you want to ask him tonight, I mean, it's fine. I'm in the process of reviewing this and have not gotten all the way through it. It is fairly extensive and technical, and as you would expect. And I encourage each of you to take some time to look through this, because it is dealing with some of the issues that hopefully will help improve our lake quality. And I know we've had talks about, trying to eliminate some of the impervious surfaces to handle our drainage better. And so hopefully this is something that's going to help us as we move forward with trying to help with the lake quality and clarity. And so as you review this, I would ask if you would, whatever questions that you have on this, if you can direct it into Sean. There may be duplicate things that come up, and we'll let Sean try to handle that with Withers Ravenel. And if you particularly need a conversation with them, I'm not trying to cut that off. We can probably make arrangements for that also. But I think that's the best way to proceed with it, and the way we normally do when we're looking at consideration and passage of a substantial ordinance, which is going to have long-lasting effects on what we're doing here at the lake. And I know I've had some questions come up myself that I'm going to be directing through Sean for. You've got things like setbacks and things like that, and we've got kind of a unique situation down here at the lake on setbacks we already have. I'm not trying to get into specifics, but I'm just just pointing that out to say that, I think we'll have some questions on that. Look forward to hearing y'all from. So folks, if y'all will direct your questions into Sean, and then we will contact Withers Ravenel. We'll see what we can do to get, answers to that. And, that way, hopefully, when we come in at the November 18th meeting, we'll be, prepared to, hopefully go ahead and take some action on this if we can get to that point. Any questions that anybody had right at this point? And again, I understand y'all just received this. I get that. We just got that. That's why we didn't put it on for any action tonight. We wanted you to get the general presentation, have a chance to review it, and then we'll take it from there and see what we can do. We appreciate your presentation tonight, and we look forward to talking with you on it prior to looking at this for consideration on November the 18th.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, the next item is under administrative matters under section 3. You will notice two things that have been sent in from Diane Larson. One is kind of a letter in continuance of some of the things that we were when she gave a presentation last month. And there's also at your table handout dated October 10, 25, which was some additional items that we had just received. And since you haven't had a chance to take a look at those, again, we can do any follow-up you need on it. I think it appears to me from what she's giving us from IAH Analytical Laboratories, which is a lab that's used in Seattle, is if you'll notice down at the bottom of the page, it talks about, and it's in fairly technical language, that the dissolved N total N ratio was 66.7%. And I think right after that, kind of, as I understand it, leads to the an explanation of saying, which means there is a significant particulate component to total N, which is what she was saying at our last meeting. There are measurable amounts of nitrogen that are contained in the rainfall in this area. And the lab results basically bear that out. And I was glad too that on the next page of that has the picture of the lake on it. One other thing that I wanted to point out, it talks about total dissolved carbon. The DOC levels have been relatively high, and I know we all get questions from time to time. People come up and think we're putting laundry detergent in the lake, and that's what's causing foam on it. But the primary component of lake foam is generated due to this circulation that she quotes. It's under the lake surface and is moved towards the shoreline by wind action. And she took a picture of that from one of her earlier trips. So if you get people that are talking about, we're letting phosphates or laundry detergent get in the lake and it's causing foam, it's just not true. It's like sea foam that you see down at the beach, which accumulates, and that's from the wave and water action. So I think that's kind of the primary thing she's following up on, and gave some specifics too in the earlier information about some of the things that we need to be looking at going forward, which were also talked about in the presentation that was given last month. So I encourage you to look through that and let you know that I'm working with staff, and encourage you to also to see what we can do in some of these areas to, again, look at the overall lake quality and see what we can do to improve it. Any questions anybody's got on this? Again, I ask that you take a close look at that if you can. And that is her update. Any members of the general public that wish to see that, we're glad to make that available. The next item is the White Lake Water AIA project update. Sean, if you would, please.
Yes, sir. For this month's update, I want to share with the board that we're starting to hit some significant milestones in this project. We are nearing completion of the project. Briefly, the town staff, myself, and the Public Works Director and some of his crew members are reviewing our hydraulic modeling report. Also, today we conducted a risk matrix assessment, which essentially means the likelihood of failure for some of our utility on our water system in the town, the consequence of that failure, and some key performance indicators. So all that is to say, we are currently working on developing a capital improvement project list. That is the next workshop coming up in the project. We will then take that capital improvement plan and develop an asset management plan, which will be reviewed by town staff and state members of DEQ, ultimately leading to a council presentation in the near future. If there are no updates, Mayor, that concludes this month's update on, excuse me, if there are no questions, that concludes this month's update on the water asset inventory assessment project.
All right. Next, if you'll cover our Black Mountain software conversion update.
Yes, sir. I wanted to briefly touch on this, mainly to inform the board that we have received multiple forms of feedback from our customers on our utilities, our water and sewer services. And that is to say, we are aware that customers are getting multiple bills where they, in the past, were getting single bills, mainly for irrigation and primary services, water and sewer. There is a short-term fix. There's a customer portal that they can set up based off an ID, a unique ID presented to them. That sounds complicated. It's not. I would encourage you to have anybody asking you questions to give town staff a call. We can address their concerns. We can document their feedback for our transition process to the new Black Mountain software. I also want to share with you, there is a fix forthcoming in the software that will combine the bills as they were in the past. If there's no other questions, Mayor, that concludes the update for the Black Mountain software conversion.
Next is our police building maintenance and repair. If you would comment on that.
Yes, sir. This is a request that's being generated from staff to consider a maintenance and repair proposal for the town's police department. In accordance with town's procurement policy, I do want to let the board know that staff has solicited bids from multiple companies on the project that you see, or the proposal for the the proposal for the project you see in your agenda packet. This request addresses areas within the police building where mold has been identified and remediation is necessary. A copy of the proposal, as mentioned, is in your agenda packet, along with a list of companies that have been contacted during the bidding process, and those companies that did decline to submit a bid did not submit a bid for one reason or another. The proposed cost for this maintenance and repair project is $16,701.63. This money will come from unappropriated fund balance, as it is an unbudgeted request. If there are questions, happy to receive those, Mayor. If not, staff would ask that the board approve this request for the remediation project of the police department.
Any questions?
Is this part of the insurance claim or just the molds?
We did look into the insurance process and we did not qualify.
And we had somewhat similar situation a good number of years ago that came up in the fire department, and we had to address it in there. I'm sure you remember that. And we had a mold problem, and it was, as far as I know, successfully addressed. I haven't seen any problems with it lately. And we've had this arise here in this building, and so to provide our employees a safe place in which to work. I mean, this is not our luxury. This is one of those things we just have to do, kind of like if you'd have it in your house or something, and you simply have to bite the bullet and do it. Because we need to keep folks who work for us, we need to give them a safe environment. So, I would like to entertain a motion that we approve the, contract with Lighthouse Construction is presented in the amount of $16,701.63.
So moved.
Second. Motion second, any discussion? Not all in favor indicate by saying aye. Any opposed, like sign. Next is the White Lake, Police Department body cam policy. I know Sean and our town attorney have been working on that. He and Whitley have been looking at that, looked at some other ordinances, come up with something for the town of White Lake. Sean, you got any additional comments on that, or?
No, sir. The policy is contained in the agenda packet. This is, as Mayor Womble pointed out, a policy that we've taken some language from various other organizations and municipalities. This does include body cameras as well as vehicle cameras for future use.
Whitley, anything you needed to add to this? I know you've been working on this and you and I have had some discussions on it, but anything you needed to add on?
Yeah, I'll just say that, I mean, it comports with the statutes that relate to volume one and vehicle matters.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes, if not, I would entertain a motion to approve the White Lake Police Department body cam policy as presented.
Move.
Second. Motion second, any discussion? Not all in favor indicate by saying aye. Any opposed, like sign. Sean, if you would cover paragraph D on our computer, email, internet, and social media usage policy.
Yes, sir. This policy constitutes a town-wide policy intended to outline the proper use for all town of White Lake computers and network resources, the effective protection of our individual employees, and the proper management of those resources. You will see the policy again outlined in your agenda packet. I have worked on this one as well with the town attorney and asked her to review this to make sure that it does comply with all statutes that are according to this type of policy language. And these guidelines, I do want to point out, are not intended to supplement, or excuse me, they are intended to supplement. They're not intended to replace any existing laws that may be already in place for this type of policy content. If there are no questions, Mayor, staff would ask that the board adopt the employee computer, email, internet, and social media usage policy as presented.
Any questions anyone has, staff, in regard to that? If not, I would entertain a motion that be approved as presented.
So moved.
Second. Motion second, any discussion? Not all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign, and Sean, the last of the policy matters, you could have covered that on the cellular phone policy.
Yes, sir. And looking at one policy, we decided it was a good time to address several policies, this being the last policy as mentioned by Mayor Womble in your agenda packet. This is a White Lake cellular phone policy. We saw the opportunity to establish a guideline to ensure that our cellular service is used in the town of White Lake to improve customer service and to enhance the efficiency of our operations. The purpose of this policy is to ensure that cellular telephones and other cellular services used by town of White Lake employees support town business functions to fullest capacity. This policy advises employees and department heads of their responsibilities and provides guidance in managing distribution of cellular services for employees whose job duties require that they use cell phones during their day-to-day operations. I would also add this policy has also been reviewed by a town attorney and does comply with all applicable North Carolina general statutes. If there are no questions, Mayor, staff would ask that the board adopt the White Lake cellular phone policy as presented.
Sure, no question.
I got one, Mayor. Sean, do we have, do we have hands-free devices for everyone who has a cell phone driving a vehicle? Do we provide those?
Yes, sir. And that's where this is coming from. We've actually, in this year's budget, expanded our cell phone and in some ways our tablets to enhance our employees' capability of having a mobile office and being able to respond in real time.
That was my question for maintenance, public works, more using a tablet. Or at least having computer in the truck versus down in a hole.
cell phones falling out, getting damaged, all that type of stuff.
Yes, sir.
All right, any other questions or staff? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve, item E as presented.
So move.
Second. Motion second, any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Any opposed, like sign. The next two items are, just basically administrative, but the first is the White Lake Recreation Advisory Board bylaws. The Recreation Advisory Board is asking our board to adopt the White Lake Recreation Advisory Board bylaws, with a virtual meeting option. The presented bylaws were approved by the Recreation Advisory Board at their August 28, 25 meeting and submitted to us. And in accordance with our code of ordinances, they must be adopted by the town. This is what is adopted by the Recreation Advisory Board. And with that being said, I would entertain a motion. Well, on any questions on again, as I said, it's just administrative. I would entertain a motion that we approve the bylaws as they were approved by the Recreation Advisory Board.
So moved.
Second. Motion second, any discussion? Not all in favor indicate by saying aye. All opposed, like sign. Next is the same thing with the White Lake Water Quality and Quantity Advisory Board. And that has also been approved with a virtual meeting option. The presented bylaws were approved by the advisory board at their August 28th meeting. In accordance with our code of ordinances, they must be adopted by the town board. Any questions in regard to those? If not, I would entertain a motion that it be approved as presented.
So moved.
Second. Second. Any discussion? Not all in favor indicate by saying aye. All opposed, like sign. Sean, if you would, if you'll cover the advisory board, White Lake Friends Partnership during trail events.
Yes, sir. Per the code of ordinances set forth in 35.03, the recommendations from the advisory board, whether it's the recreation board, whether it's the water clarity board, whether it's the planning board, all recommendations are presented to council for approval and adoption. Under this specific agenda item, the Recreation Advisory Board is proposing a partnership with the White Lake Friends to promote two trail events, one coming up this upcoming weekend, October 18th. That is in accordance with the Great State Trails Coalition, which the town is a member of. And the second being a event in February that's put forth by, I think it's the North Carolina Department of Cultural Resources as a state event. The request is to partner with White Lake Friends on a scavenger hunt. You'll see there's also a monetary request in here. The expense is $190. That would provide 12 signs for 12 individual stations on the scavenger hunt and an estimated 50 booklets for, as I understand it, the participants to fill out during their scavenger hunt. You'll see copies of the signs that are being proposed in your agenda. And if there are no questions, mayor, staff would ask that the board approve the recommendation from the Recreation Advisory Board as presented.
Any questions?
I got some questions about signs. Are they gonna be like, temporarily and be able to reuse them year after year? Like election type signs, or are they metal signs?
Yeah, like election signs.
And they'll be used at both the events outlined.
And it just be staged along the trail?
The one in October is going to start here at Town Hall and just barely make the turn on 53, so they
On
can,
sidewalk?
yeah. We wanted to make sure they walked on the East Coast Greenway and learned about that, so it has to turn the corner. And then the one in February will be on the multi-use path.
Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the partnership and requested funds as presented.
So moved.
Motion, second. Second. Any discussion? If none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Any opposed, like sign. Item 4, ordinances and resolutions. It's that time of the year very quickly. We're back at Halloween again. We've got the same resolution we adopt each Halloween. And no, we don't intend to go out and arrest folks who are out past the curfew. This simply, as it's done in the past, gives our police officers something to back them up if you have someone who is out and doing things they should not be doing. So we do that, of course, for the town's benefit and for the benefit of our police department. So it gives them some leeway in being able to handle that situation. That being said, I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution 2026-05 as presented.
So moved.
Motion second.
Second.
Any discussion? Not all in favor indicate by saying aye. All opposed, like sign. Sean, if you will, we've got items B, C, D, and E on our one being a resolution for surplus personal property and the other being budget ordinance amendments. And Sean, if you will take each one of those individually so we can take action.
Yes, sir. For item B, this is resolution 2026-06. This is a resolution declaring equipment surplus and then authorizing the electronic auction of surplus personal property. It's this time of the year for this type of request as well. Every year, we typically look within our departments to identify surplus of equipment, particularly equipment that's no longer in service. We then list that through some means of disposal, this being the electronic auction form on govdeals.com for folks to bid on and bring back some miscellaneous revenue into our department to try and account for some expenses that may pop up during the year. You'll see two attachments, both relating to the police department, attachment A and attachment B. Again, this is surplus equipment, and this resolution again is doing two things. Number one, declaring it surplus, and then number two, per North Carolina general statutes, authorizing the town administrator and the police chief to dispose of the property via the electronic auction method. If there are no questions, staff would ask that the board approve resolution 2026-06 as presented.
There are no questions. I would entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 2026-06 as presented.
Moved.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? Not all in favor indicate by saying aye. All opposed, like sign. Sean, item C.
Item C is a budget ordinance. It's budget ordinance amendment 2026-06. This is the part of the meeting where we're pitching and catching, essentially in the most basic terms. In other words, there is an expense that's been authorized at a previous meeting, and now we're accounting for those funds via government accounting. The first one you see again is 2026-06. This is to purchase our additional police truck. If you recall, we had purchased or agreed to purchase 2 trucks under last year's budgetary funds. We did increase that by a 3rd truck to account for a wrecked vehicle. This is just simply, this budget ordinance is simply increasing the loan amount that we will pursue in terms of securing financial terms. Those financial terms we brought back before the board, but this is the budgetary vehicle in which we're using to increase that loan to account for the purchase of the 3rd police truck. If there are no questions, Mayor, staff would ask that the board approve the budget ordinance amendment 2026-06 as presented.
And any question? Not, I'd entertain a motion to approve amendment number 2026 dash, and I don't know if 06 is correct on that because the preceding one was 06. So that's
The resolution.
correct. Okay, it's all
So
right.
moved.
So I'll entertain a motion. A motion second. Any further discussion? Not all in favor indicate by saying aye. All opposed, like sign. Item D, Sean, if you would.
Item D is budget ordinance amendment 2026-07. This is to account for our lift station that was recently, I believe it was July 4th, actually, some time has passed, but relatively recently affected by a lightning strike. That lift station was deemed a total loss. And these funds are being received from the insurance proceeds. This is not money coming, in other words, from the town budget or any type of unappropriated revenue expenditure. The Insurance proceeds total $73,779 for both the replacement of the lift station and to utilize the bypass pump that is currently operating while we wait on parts to install the new lift station. If there are no questions, Mayor, staff would ask that the board approve the budget ordinance amendment as presented.
Any questions? And I did want to point out, Sean has had to do some battling with the insurance company, but been some back and forth, but it came out that, as he pointed out, we're getting $73,779 from insurance on this, and of course, that's revenues that are coming into the town to offset this replacement expense. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to accept those funds as provided in budget order amendment number 2026-07 as presented.
So moved.
Motion second. Any discussion? Not all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. And Sean, if you will, the final budget ordinance amendment.
This is Budget Ordinance Amendment 2026-08. This is to account for fire supplies. This is a reimbursement of cleanup supplies that the town recently received. If there are no questions, staff would ask that the board approve Budget Ordinance Amendment 2026-08 for the fire supplies reimbursement of $121 as presented.
Any questions for staff? Not all, I entertain a motion to approve budget ordinance number 2026-08 as presented. Motion second, any discussion? Not all in favor indicate by saying aye.
No.
All opposed, like sign. Item 5, other business. Is there any matters that need to be brought to our attention that are not on the agenda?
Can I address the department heads just for a minute? I just want to say I'm usually pretty blunt forward to the department heads. Sean can attest to it, Bruce and Dale. I've been real nice to Kevin though. He's our newest guy. But I have witnessed the respect y'all have from your staff. And I wanted to share that with y'all. I'm proud to see that. Because when you got a good staff behind you, you got a good team, you accomplish a lot. I'm real proud to be working with an association like this. I wish you put yourself sometimes in our place as commissioners, whereas, why do I have to pay a water bill in the winter? I don't never come to the lake. I turn my trash can in because I don't have trash. And why isn't the water clean? Well, I say, we face that all the time, but I got an upcoming election and I hope y'all get out and vote. And if whatever works out, but I did want to share how proud I am of this staff. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep. Anything else? If not, item 5A are our departmental briefings and reports as we normally produce each month. Those are available for public inspection. Item B, I'll see also if Sean has any comments on this, but if you'll recall, we had a special use permit application that was done by Mr. Travis Denton that was been continued a couple of times, and we told him we'd have to re-advertise. Just want to let you know that they have had some changes apparently in what they're requesting, and they have withdrawn their request or permit application on special use permit. And it's my understanding they will be resubmitting that, and that will need to go through the entire process.
Yes, sir.
So again, that's just for informational purposes, and so bring that back up to you when they do in fact present that again. Item C is our municipal complex holiday closure or Veterans Day. We'll be closed on the Veterans Day observance this year is Tuesday, November the 11th, which if you will take note of the fact that that is the date of our normal meeting date in November, being the second Tuesday. So if you'll see at the bottom of the page, when we recess this meeting tonight, we're going to do that to the November 18th date, because we will not be meeting on Veterans Day, November the 11th, because we know people have plans on that. So just want to make everyone aware of it. And that is set out in item D, also in furtherance of the Veterans Day closure from the 11th. Want to remind you that in item E, Lake Cleanup Day will be held on Saturday, October the 18th, which is upcoming. And that is to clean up and remove debris from the shoreline. And there will, you can contact staff in regard to that on helping out. I encourage people in any of the subdivisions, lakefront property, or being near the lake to go down and help with that and participate in it. Anything that we can remove from the lake shoreline is debris and other items that are not going to get into the lake, and we'll see about getting those removed. So I hope everybody can take time to give that the attention that it deserves, so we can help look after the best interest of our lake.
If I could add to that,
Sure.
Timbo, we appreciate you volunteering. And it's not the citizens of the town that are doing it, it's White Lake Friends.
Do what?
White Lake Friends, not the citizens of the town of White Lake.
Where are you talking about? Oh, where it says in the thing, in the agenda, the citizens of the town.
Right.
Well, I hope the citizens will be holding it also, but I understand what you're saying about who's putting it on, but I would still encourage the citizens of our town to participate in
We
that.
have 70 signed up right now.
Yeah, that's good. We want to get good citizen participation. Okay, that concludes the items we have in our agenda. We are now at the open forum. It is 3 minutes per citizen. Anyone wishing to address the board will need to step forward, state your name for our records, and you have 3 minutes to address the board. If there's no one to address the board in open forum, that does conclude our meeting for tonight. And I would entertain a motion to adjourn to the date of November the 18th, 2025 for our regular meeting due to conflict with the Veterans Day holiday.
So moved.
Motion second. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. We are adjourned.